Okay, I'm back. Can people hear me now? Okay, now I'm back to the normal setup here. Anybody that complains about anything, I'm going to block forever. I just blocked somebody that was whining on here. How do you like that? There you go. First complainer I see, I'm blocking. No, every complainer I see, I'm going to block. This guy that I should do this before I do this. I did actually. And then for some reason it doesn't work on here. Okay, so I was doing this video yesterday, and I'm talking about just like old times, band hammering. I'm not messing around here. It's boring seeing people whine, especially grown adults whining. Really, really, you guys don't know how lucky you have it. We all have it. Maybe not all of us, but so people are asking me. I always see these comments in the videos where it says, you know, I don't understand this theory. I think that, you put all these chords in and it looks like it's algebra or something like that. And there's levels to how people learn. Okay. So you have, some people that are at an advanced level, are looking for other things, other ways to understand music. Sometimes they, there's people that are ear learners. There are people that learn through, they have good ears but learn through music theory. I learned by ear, and then I learned what things were called later. That's kind of the, that was my path into music. Many people start their path into music by actually learning how to read on an instrument, and that you're learning the piano or the saxophone, or maybe you learn the guitar, but you learn how to read first. I learned by ear at a different time when there were no aids to improve your learning, like YouTube, for example, where you can't see how people play things. Okay, if I'm listening to something, if I want, there was an Alan Holdsworth video that or song that was on. It's called Evermore. It was on the first UK record, and he plays acoustic guitar on it. Now, when I'm listening to that, I say to myself, "How does he do this? I've never heard anything like this." He's playing acoustic guitar, but he's playing all these Holdsworth lines. This isn't, 1976 or 78, whenever it was, the first UK record. I never heard anything like that. I had no idea. I could tell it was pull-offs and hammer-ons. I could tell it was legato playing, but you don't know where he's playing on the guitar. You've never heard lines like that, and they're very hard to figure out because there's no slowdowners or anything. There's no YouTube to show you where people are playing. There was no tablature because all the magazines were in the. Okay, so anybody that says voice low or anything like that, Christian, I'll give you one chance here. You can delete that because I'm going to block anybody that complains about the sound, because I know that I'm going through that sound right on that microphone and that it works perfectly. Okay. So any sound complaining here and you get banned forever. How's that? How do you like that? Stop interrupting me. Anyways, and stop asking me questions about Frank Zappa and other people. I'm trying to explain something here, okay? How's that? So I was having lunch with Rhett, and we were talking about this stuff. And about how nowadays people can turn on this YouTube and that you can see, you not only can learn how people play things if they're doing it right, but you can actually see how they play things. Now that's an advantage and a disadvantage, because sometimes you figure out things wrong and it will create a style of playing that you'll, that it'll create an avenue that you go down that maybe other people would not go down, because they're figuring out things in weird areas on the guitar or on the piano or whatever it might be, So when I'm doing things like trying to like the video yesterday was about Dorian Flat 2, and I've done videos on every single mode of the major scale, the melodic minor scale, the harmonic minor, the harmonic major, the double harmonic major, everything. Okay, this guy's gone here. This Christian guy, he's gone. Okay, good. There's another band hammer. There you go, Christian. That's two complaints. You're gone. Here we go. So I feel like, on one hand, teaching things on here is obviously incredibly useful. But if you're going to do that, you should try and teach things that maybe people don't use at all. That's why I'm using some of these modes, like the video yesterday was on Dorian Flat 2. Okay, because that particular scale, or these modes of the melodic minor scale, are not used very frequently. Okay, I mean, they're used by some jazz players, but you don't hear that many jazz players playing over chords like that, right? So I improvised this thing, and I went back and I figured it out, and I played the thing, and I think I can remember. I know I started out like that. So right there, that's just the scale with a couple notes missing. And I went to that note. I skipped this note in the scale because I wanted to land on that note on a strong beat. Okay, so I'm always thinking ahead when I'm improvising these things. And then I went, and I'm coming back to here, so I'm trying to land on a strong beat on this G. So, right? There's my first one, then again on that G, okay? Then I start using other fragments of scales, right? Or of arpeggios and scales that are found within that scale. So I'm using this, it's really an A flat leading augmented, but starting on G. It's really the arpeggio of the scale. It's a Dorian Flat 2 sound. So here's all these notes. I'm seeing all these chord shapes. I'm hearing these sounds, and I'm trying to play things that I don't hear anymore, or I don't hear at all. There's back in the 80s, people would play these kind of sounds like that in jazz, but they don't play them in rock. And in order for people to come up with new styles of playing that don't sound like other people, you have to use different ingredients, if you will. It's kind of like trying to bake a cake with all the same ingredients all the time. You really need to experiment with new things. And so I'm trying to present things where it's not just, I'm not sweep picking and getting hung up by only the things that fall under the hand when you're sweeping under a minor arpeggio. If I'm sweep picking a minor, an A minor arpeggio like that, well, if I alternate pick, okay, I can't do it as fast, but if I add an extra note to that, so I added the ninth to that arpeggio there. So right there, I can use I can adjust I can adjust the line. I can go there and hammer on. But locking yourself into sweep picking patterns and things like that and the same types of arpeggios and playing them the same way all the time basically forces your playing into playing patterns. And you're not going to turn things around in the same spots. You're not going to, or in different spots. And it's hard to break free and actually improvise. And it's in order to improvise, you have to have facility around the entire neck. I mean, to really improvise well, you have to have facility around the entire neck, which means you have to know not only the scales around the entire neck, but you have to know all these arpeggios. And so let's say I'm taking this thing. So this is why I list all the arpeggios for that scale. So I took that Dorian flat 2, but I listed all the triads and seventh chords from F melodic minor. That's the parent scale of there, okay, of that thing. So that's a scale. In that scale, there are a bunch of triads and a bunch of seventh chords. The triads that I listed, though, I don't just list the straight triads. I list triads and I list suspensions. So, for example, there are two major triads in there in that sequence. It's B flat major and C major. So if I play this chord, I play B flat, that's B flat major and C major. Okay, now I can add other notes of the scale to those. I can play C sus. Or I can play C major with a sus, which is what that is. So I'm going 4, 3. The code for the Beato book is RB114. Are these on the cup? These are on the cup. Well, yeah, there's a cup for the triads, and then there's the cup for the scales. So what I'll do is I'll take some of these triads and seventh chords, and I will add notes to them and create these little fragments. Okay, so if I'm going, so I've got B flat major. I say, okay, what extra note can I add to this triad? I can add that sharp 4 to it, okay, and create a Lydian triad. I can go. I can do the Lydian, add the sharp 4 and use the major third. Okay. On the C, I can add the ninth, because the D is in the scale too. I can add the fourth on the C, okay, and so I add the fourth, and I have the triad. I can play a sus 4. So I'm doing that C sus 4. That's C sus 4 there. C sus 4 is all over the place here on the guitar, right? So that's why I include these things. It's so you can this is so that you can any of these distracting things here, these trolls like that, VTR guy, gone. So if I take the F minor arpeggio that's in there, right? Because it's F Dorian, it's F melodic minor. So there's an F minor. So there's an F minor arpeggio in there, right? So it's just this. I can add the ninth to it. Okay, so all those arpeggios lines are going to work, and you can create solo ideas using these. This is the reason that I add these, or that I put these things in there in the video, is so that you can maybe take a couple things from there. Say, oh, I like the sound of that. I think I might use that. Or maybe you know a couple different things to play on there, and then this opens up a couple more. It's kind of like if you're playing an F minor pentatonic, and you know a few extra notes there, but then you have to learn where the notes are there, right? And here. David, what's up? Will I ever have a hard copy version of my book? I mean, eventually I will, but not anytime soon. Andrew, out of curiosity, when I compose, I listen to the style of music you're trying to write in. Do I do the same? No, not usually. No, I usually listen to music when I'm doing that. When I'm composing music, I don't usually do that. So this is one of the reasons why I include all these things in there, all these different arpeggios and seventh chords that come from the scale. I think that it's if you just pick 3 things from there these things help you break out of just playing up and down scales. And so many people play up and down scales, which is boring, I mean, you can play your scales. Now, right there, I'm breaking up the scale in different ways, right? So there we go. So now I'm starting to take the scale, and the way I'm breaking it up is that I am using some arpeggios in there, right? So I did this. I'm G minor, C major, G minor. Did Marty Friedman teach me this? I've been doing this for 40 years, so long before Marty was recorded any notes. I did this. I was doing this when Led Zeppelin was putting out records. How's that? Okay, so I'm using C major, G minor. What did I do? So there's C major there. These are all arpeggios. Okay, so those things right there. Did I teach Marty that? I did not teach Marty that, no. So it's finding those fragments and using them to break up the ideas that you're doing. To break up the idea, the lines that you're playing, so that they're more interesting. So it's not just scalar. That's the thing. It's like, I hear so many people, or the people that just play straight, arpeggios. The same, diminished seventh arpeggios, Yngwie, people like that, or like sweep picking arpeggios, things that that kind of fall under the fingers that you can practice a lot. And the idea is that if you practice stuff a lot, you're going to play it a lot. So you want to practice things, but you always want to be trying to improvise and play new things. So one of the things is knowing where those notes are on the neck are incredibly important. If you're playing just an A major or A Mixolydian, you're playing over a A7 chord. So I'm playing instead of playing the scale or in the scale in thirds and in sixths, whatever it might be, playing it, breaking it up into some of the arpeggios. Your best buddy, thank you. Wondering if I could elaborate on emotional responses listeners would have to have more uncommon modes. Wait, an emotional response listeners would have to the more uncommon modes. Well, it depends. It depends on what you're doing in them. It's hard to say what kind of emotional response. Different people are going to play different things. So you can take the same subject matter but create completely different things. If I take a D minor scale, right? Instead of I can play a straight D minor chord, but I can also play this chord. I can play that chord. Nari, how do you improve your ability to come up with new and interesting ways to pace phrases? Everybody should subscribe to Nari's channel who hasn't subscribed to it yet, because her channel is amazing. I love her channel. So figuring out different combinations of intervals to play over a certain scale, for example. It's not only in single notes, but it's in chords. So if I'm playing in D minor, or let's say D Dorian, like I can play a chord like this. Okay, I can play this. 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 I can play that. That's in the scale too. I can play that. I can play this. All those are different types of D Dorian voicings. I can play this. I can play that. I can play this. So, same thing goes with melodic lines, right? So I just played a line like that. So I'm thinking like, I'm in D Dorian. So here's my D Dorian. And I'm playing. Trying coming up with lines like that, okay, where I'm using notes from the scale, but I'm trying to playing in unusual orders that I may never have heard people play in before. Right there. So I'm trying anybody can run up and down the scales. it's the people that look for the uncommon things to play that are the ones that are going to play the most interesting things. And that takes a lot of experimentation. Major Triad asks, if you're in D Dorian, are you in the key of C? Yes, you're in the key of C. Okay. There's my D minor, right? When I did those chords, like that, all those D Dorian chords will work as lines too. Okay, so I can add an extra note. I've never played that before. So I'm using this sound here, whole step interval, and then sixth interval, right? And then I come down, and then I think, okay, that's a hard line. Okay, now that would be a cool D Dorian sound right there. So I took those chords and I played them as single notes and I added one note in the bottom. Okay, so that would be a new kind of thing that that I've never played before, and that I might never play again. If I took another series of voicings, so if I take these I took a different set of 3 voicings instead of I did more like an Alan Holdsworth voicing. What was I'm doing here? That's right. Seems to be all suspensions. Okay, so right there, no, sorry. See, I'm having to figure this out because I've not played this before. That's where I'm going to go. And that's right there. Okay. Sus there. Then it changes to, it's still sus there. Changes there. Changes there. So it's almost all sus chords except for there and here. Okay, so that's easy to do then. Okay, so now that I have that down, then I'm going to add another note to that. James says it sounds like D Dorian. It is D Dorian. So I'm going to add a note, or I'll play that as single notes. So. There we go. Okay. So, okay. If I add a note to those lines there, right? To those interval shapes. Hard to do. I mean, you got to really think about this stuff to play it, right? So, but this is how you grow as a player: is you just sit there and you experiment with it. Anyways, so this is why I include the theory stuff in there. I mean, really, it's for some of the people that are watching it, they're going to get ideas from these things. When that A, when you get to A flat Lydian augmented, for example, out of this G Dorian flat 2, and you hear that chord in there, you're like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Or D minor 11 flat 5, or E minor 11 flat 5, or whatever it may be. Any of these things. Any type of connection you can make is great. That's the thing. However you do it. That's why I include these things. They may not be there to learn or to use to learn, but some people can learn from these things. If I were to see that, I'm going to learn from those things, right? My ear can take me pretty much 99% of the way, but there's things that I can think about that I might not hear because I'm not used to hearing it, because people tend to hear thank you, DB Music. Appreciate that. People tend to hear things that they've played before. That's what they hear. So to hear things that are new, that's what music theory is good for. That's really, all right, Reverb Twang, I'll block you. You're welcome. And that's why I do it. So I hope that answers that question, because I get asked that a lot. How do you use augmented chords in pop like the Beatles did? It's hard to use augmented chords in pop. It's like, baby, hold on to me. Whatever will be, will be. They're hard to use. Augmented chords without it sounding corny. Augmented chords sound really dated in pop music. They just do. It's too bad. It is too bad. So I don't really have an answer for that. Lydian augmented chords are different. Straight augmented triads are tough to use. I'm trying to think of an example of an augmented chord that something that is kind of fresh. Oh, darling. There you go, Dean. Yeah. Augmented and diminished chords. Paul Simon uses diminished chords really well in a lot of his tunes. But you tend to get, I think the stuff tends to get dated sounding. It's just like the 4 minor chord sounds dated. It just does, That's why I made the video about the modern 4 minor chord. And a lot of it has to do with how it's arranged too. If it's just played straight on a guitar, then it's, with straight voicings, it can sound like that. But you hear it on keyboard, it sounds totally different. Anyways, all right, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm sorry I had the problem with the microphone and everything. I'm getting fed up with this thing. I don't understand why this doesn't work. I'm going to delete the first 5 minutes of the live stream here. RB 114. No. Yeah, 114. RB 114 is the code. It is the code for 20% off anything in my store. That's how I make my living. You guys are amazing. Is there a good deal on the Beato book? Yeah, I just gave it to you. 20% off. You guys are the best. Thank you. We'll see you later.